Alright, so checking out another EDC flashlight and a new company here on the channel. This is from a company called TANK007, and this is their WK1 model. And as you can see, it's got this bidirectional swiveling head. It says bidirectional lighting, and it has a 180-degree rotational. And there's two LEDs on each side. I'll show you that here in a second. Magnetic tail, USB-C charging, 1400 lumens on one of the LEDs, which is up to 250 meters beam distance and does run off of one 18650 lithium ion cell. Stuff out of the box here. There you get the manual, product warranty card, and the sticker. Get a USB-A to USB-C cable for charging. Get a wrist strap and two spare O-rings. Alright, so here is the flashlight itself, and I got the orange color here. As you can tell from the picture on the box, it does come in black as well. And magnetic tail here. Let's just test that real quick. I got a little magnetic ruler, and it does stick on there pretty well. Test that outside later. This head here does rotate, so it looks like you have a floodlight and a spotlight. And you can kind of hear it rotating there. So there's little notches. I can tell there's there's little notches in the aluminum, so you can kind of set an angle. You can have the light go out both ways, so that would be the floodlight, and here's the spotlight, and that's the LED for the spotlight. So it's not 360 degrees rotatable, it's 180 degrees. What's kind of nice is you could magnetically attach this to something and then adjust your lighting angle to the direction that you want. So if you're working on something, maybe your car or some other project, you can angle the light. So this is kind of useful. Little flap here for the USB-C port for charging. And you got your branding here, and there's the model number. This is pretty standard 6061 anodized aluminum, and just run off of these two buttons here, A and B. And I think you just take the cap off here, and that's where the spare O-rings are going to be for keeping it waterproof. And go ahead and pull this out. So this is very magnetic. It's actually sticking to the battery. So you can pop that off. And as usual, there's a little piece of plastic here to prevent it from self-discharging. And here is the cell itself, and not sure who makes this. No branding on here, so it's not made by this company. Button top. There is a spring, although it's hard to see on this side as well as on this side. So it should work with either button top or flat top cells. This one is 2600 milliamp hours and ARB-L18 2600. I don't know who makes this cell. I haven't seen this one anywhere before. All right, so a quick look at the specs before I show you how to do the demo of the flashlight. So as I said, there's a spotlight and a floodlight, and then there's different modes for each. So obviously the spotlight's going to be a more narrow beam and brighter, and a lot brighter here. 1400 lumens on the high mode. So there's high, medium, work light mode, moonlight mode, and there's a strobe mode. You can see the corresponding lumens here, 10, 100, and 350, all up to the 1400. But then your runtime is going to be a lot lower. So obviously at the highest, it's only up to 2 hours, and then at the moonlight mode, lowest, 160 hours. There's also an SOS mode I missed here, 350 lumens for that. And the floodlight mode on the other side, so floodlight's going to be a wider beam and not as bright, so 700 lumens max, but again only 2 hours on the maximum, and it goes down to 300, then 100, then 10, and these are the corresponding runtimes. So I'm going to have 20 hours on moonlight mode, and it does come with a strobe and SOS mode. Here are the distances that it can reach. So obviously the narrow beam is going to go further, up to 250 meters. The floodlight only goes up to about 61 meters here. A couple more things to note. It is IPX7 waterproof rated. Dimensions 129 by 32.8 by 25.8 millimeters, and it weighs 105 grams without the battery. Alright, so quick little demo We are on, this is the floodlight. And to turn on, I think you just press the A button. And if you want to switch to the other light, I think you press the B button. So yeah, that's the spotlight. You can go back and forth. And I think if you want both of them on at the same time, I think you press both A and B at the same time. So when it's off, press both A and B at the same time. That's a long press to turn it off. Alright, so just going through the different modes here on the floodlight. So it is on. And the moonlight mode here, this is 10 lumens. The work light mode, 100 lumens. There's medium, 300 lumens. And that's high, 700 lumens. And we'll go back down to the moonlight mode, and we'll go ahead and switch this and turn on the, this is the spotlight. So now we're back down to the moonlight mode on spotlight. Work light mode. There's medium. Oof, that's high. It's 1400 lumens. That's pretty bright. It's obviously a little harder to see the beam width here, so we just kind of move it over to the side here. And go back to the other side. Compare the beam width. You can see there, yeah, it's quite a bit wider. In fact, it's really no distinction in terms of like the floodlight. It kind of goes all over. So to activate the strobe and SOS modes, you double press any button. So let's go ahead and I'll put this in, one of the higher modes here, and double press. And then, okay, there's going to be some flashing here. So if you are sensitive to flashing lights, you may want to fast forward the video at this point. So double press. So that's the strobe mode. That's the SOS mode. And this cycles between them. Got strobe and then SOS. Anyway, switch over to the spotlight mode. We'll do the SOS mode test again. SOS mode. Or strobe mode. This is SOS mode. And this cycles between the two. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take this out and we'll see how it performs. I'm going to do like a little bit of different sort of video. Maybe I'm going to walk around and try out the two different lights and see how they compare and walking around such a scenario. Okay, we'll start the outside test and we'll do the floodlight first. And this is the moonlight mode. Can probably not even notice much of a difference there. There's the work light mode. And there's medium and high. And then back down to the moonlight mode. So we'll cycle through that again. So you can see that other garage door over there. And you can see how wide this beam is. It's quite wide. Alright, I'm going to flip around to the spotlight LED. There we go. You can see a much more narrow beam. So this is the moonlight mode. Work light, medium, and high. So much brighter and much more narrow of a beam. Pretty obvious, the difference. Alright, I got the flashlight stuck on my garage door. It's a metal door. And you can see the angle that's adjustable here. And this is, I think, the work light mode. So just to give you an idea. Again, on the spotlight LED. And let's go a little brighter here, so I'll show you off in the distance what that looks like. You can adjust that angle. Alright, gonna flip it around. Alright, so this is the floodlight mode. And let's Alright, cycle through. Alright, so that's moonlight, work light mode. Let's put it on medium. And see the floodlight's much brighter. And that's the maximum brightness right there. Alright, gonna just walk around here. And we're in the floodlight mode. It's off. It's the brightest setting. Alright, so just walking around. Here is the floodlight in the brightest setting. Pretty wide, but doesn't really make it that much brighter unless things are pretty close. So we'll flip it around. Alright, so now this should be the brightest setting on the spotlight mode. Yeah. You can see the difference there. Definitely a lot brighter, but it's a much narrower beam, as you can tell. Alright, so I think that's going to cover for my review of the TANK007 WK1. Nice versatile light. You have two different LEDs that really makes this kind of a fun flashlight to have. I'll put a link in the description if you guys want to check it out. That'll do it for this video, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.